can go ahead.
We should start. Okay, are you on live? Happy Sabbath, everybody. Happy Sabbath, Med Missionary, here on Zoom and on YouTube as well. And Dr. Don Miller is here with us. Happy Sabbath to you. And thank you for Hyun and Mercy for being here as well. Dr. Miller, we had a lot of people who are really excited about what you had to share the last time, and I think 15 laws of health. And so thank you. Before we start, is it okay if I start with a prayer and then you can start sharing, okay? Our dear Heavenly Father, Lord, I just want to praise you in the path of being here together in this group. Father, we know that there's so much happening in the world. Have counsel for us so that we don't have to be worried and afraid for the future. We just have to know what to focus on in this time. And I just pray that you would reveal that to us during this time, the Holy Spirit upon him as well as upon us. Thank you so much for hearing and answering.
In Jesus' name we pray, amen. All right, she'll be back in a second. All right, Dr. Don, you're on now.
Okay. Now, the title of the little talk is Back to Basics. And to give you a little heads up, I spent the last 2 weeks ago, well, last week I was here. 2 weeks prior to that, I was at Uchee Pines teaching. Let me get this thing up here. Now it's not letting me make it the whole shared screen. Here we go. Yeah, I was teaching lifestyle principles at Uchee Pines, which is basically what I'm talking about tonight. Going back to basics, because as I said in my last meeting, we sort of stopped too soon. We started calling it New Start, 8 Laws of Health. Now, when I was at Uchee Pines, 5 days a week for the 2 weeks, 3.5 hours a day, and I barely got done with it. And we're going to do this in about 45 minutes. Yeah, lots of luck on that. But I want to give you a few principles here. Now I got to figure out how to change my slides. Okay. I'm going to go back up here. How do I get rid of that thing?
If anyone here knows how to use Keynote, just jump in and give some advice.
I don't know how to use Keynote. I just get out of here and get back. It's this thing that's hanging down in the middle here.
We can see the full screen whenever.
Okay, we got it. Play.
It looks really good here.
It keeps taking me out of Keynote and putting me in Zoom thing, and Zoom don't know how to do this thing.
Another way is, instead of playing the slideshow, you can just click through your slides. If this keeps happening.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get rid of this thing that hangs down in front of me so I can get out of here.
So you can just leave it that way.
You like this?
If there's no other way, that. And then can you change the zoom to 100%?
I'm going to try it one more right now. Don't touch anything. Okay, anyway, we're going to be talking about the laws, the principles, the basic principles of health. Now, when I was in the military, we had a saying, the more you sweat in peace, the less you bleed in war. I was in the Marine Corps for 14 years. And we are right now in a peacetime, but I think all of us have to admit that it's getting a little bit less peaceful every day, every week. And we've got to be doing our work now. You might be familiar with this particular story I'm going to tell you right now. Lord Palmerston was the Premier of England back in the 1840s, 1850s. And he received a letter one day from the clergy up in Scotland saying, we're having a cholera epidemic. Please appoint a day of prayer and fasting to avert this cholera epidemic. What he replied is back to basics. Here's what he said: clean and disinfect your streets and houses. We realize that cholera is caused by unsanitary conditions. So this was the first step. Second step, promote cleanliness and health among the poor. Always a good idea. Third step, see that they are plentifully supplied with good food and raiment. Get them some good clothes. Get them some good food. You know, thinking about the good food thing, during this COVID debacle, I live in a small town in Kentucky, and we have this shopper that comes out a newspaper every week with ads from the different stores. And everyone, you'd get 3 12-packs of sodas for $10. 3 12-packs of sodas for $10. And in the middle of a COVID epidemic, it's killing us. It's killing the people. The immune system's shot. Okay, employ right sanitation measures generally. And this is what he says, and you will have no occasion to fast and pray. Why? That's the key. This is the most basic key. But what he says last completely amazes me. He says, nor will the Lord hear your prayers while these, his preventives, remain unheeded. God has given us a way to stay well. We should not be worrying about cancer, heart disease, diabetes, COVID, anything else, if we follow God's plan. It's very simple in Exodus 15:26. He says, if you do what I say, you'll get none of these diseases that I've laid upon the Egyptians. From the Lord that heals thee. We got to take that thing to heart and really believe it. Let me give you a little story from Uchee Pines. This is many years ago. We had a patient came to Uchee Pines. She walked in like a robot. She had so many problems, and she was taking 32 medications a day. I met a person, I think last week or the week before, taking 40 medications a day. Anyway, she was taking 32 medications a day, had a long list of presenting problems. I says, something wrong with this picture. So I went back to our library, which is in our conference room, and I pulled down the PDR. And this is what I did. I made a list of her problems. All right, she had a symptom. And then I said, okay, what was she taking for the symptom? She was taking a particular medication. And then I looked at what the main side effects of that medication was. And I found one of her other symptoms. She was tired all the time. So the doctors gave her medication for her tiredness. I looked that up in the PDR, and I found out that sometimes they could give you a panic attack, another one of her problems. So gave her medication for that one, looked up that one, and you can see what was happening. She was taking medications for side effects of her medications, right down the line. And at the end of the day, and it was amazing how it happened, we took her, well, she had a Babylonian mind. That's why she's in this situation. She went from 32 medications down to 4 medications in one day. Now you might say, you can't do that. We understand that. Those 4 medications were medications she could not come off of quickly. It took her a number of days. After 3 weeks, she was walking 10 kilometers a day in perfect health, all of her symptoms gone, all the medications gone. She had a Babylonian mind, and most of us have Babylonian minds too. It is not just Americans. Now, this is me. I'm working in the city of Kaduppa, India. Those are all the nicely, brightly colored people are my patients. Forget HIPAA laws. There is no HIPAA laws there. I'm sitting across, the guy in a white shirt was my translator. The current patient is sitting there to your right. And so they tell what their problem was. I had been in their area. I knew what was available. I knew all the things they could find in their area. And so I'd say, well, why don't you try doing this and this and this, this and this? And I said, that should help you. Now, if you've ever been to India or know an Indian, I love India. I love Indians. I love Indian food. But here's what they do. They do their, Mr. Bobblehead and hold out their hands and say, tablets. Now, get out of there. I don't know how that happens. I'm gonna have to go out, X out of that thing. I gotta be careful I don't hit the wrong place here. This could be a long evening. Okay, so Kadupa, India, no HIPAA laws and tablets. They had Babylonian mines. So I had to go out to an English chemist shop and I get boxes of simple vitamins, vitamin C, B complex, multiple vitamins, whatever I could find that looked a little bit different. And then they came in these blister packs. I cut them apart and taped them together until I had these long lines of tablets. Then I put them in a box under my table. The people would come to me and say, I've got this problem, I've got that problem, whatever the problem was. I say, well, why don't we try this? And I pull out a long strip of the tablets and they got, their eyes were big, they're happy. I'd hand it to them. I say, now you take one of these every day with 8 glasses of water. If nothing else, they're going to have a good flush of the urinary system. But usually the very placebo effect of the vitamin C, if they did the other things I told them to do, take things high in vitamin A, whatever it was I suggested, they would have found help because they got Babylonian minds. They got Babylonian minds everywhere. Matter of fact, it says in Revelation 18, verse 4, it says, well, verse 2, Babylon has fallen. Verse 4, come out of her, my people. Most of us have Babylonian minds. Now, I suspect I'm preaching to the choir here, but to the normal group of people I talk to, I say, when you go home, look in your medicine cabinet and count how many different medications you have in your medicine cabinet. Matter of fact, I'm 74 years old. You will find almost everybody in the United States, my age, are prescribed a baby aspirin every day. Why do we do that? Well, we do it because they said so. We got Babylonian minds, but we don't know why we're doing it. Now, here's what they're going to say. It keeps your blood thin. Does it really thin your blood? It doesn't thin your blood. It poisons the mechanism of clotting your blood because the danger is if you are old and you are in bad health, if you throw a clot, that could be dangerous, that could be deadly. So basically what you're doing is taking something that will destroy your ability to clot, which means you'll have more bleeding incidents. Now, and like I say, I'm preaching to the choir. When we're talking to the people, you've got to address things that they're interested in. Most people are very interested in living longer. If you ask the people, how many of you want to live longer? Almost everyone's going to raise their hand. But lifespan isn't the most important thing. You have a thing we call mortality. Another way to put that would be the quality of our life. That's the most important thing. This is not a Photoshop picture. That's actually a woman doing that. I'm afraid I can't do that right now. So we want a quantity. She's got plenty of quantity. The other thing is morbidity, and that is the quality. She doesn't have any quality in her life. We want quality and quantity together. Every country I go to, I will do this. I'll look up, I'll do my research, I'll find out what is the life expectancy or the morbidity, the mortality of the people living in that country. All right, this is for the United States. Now, granted, you're going to get different figures depending on who you check, but this is 2017 figures, and I can't see it for all these little things on the right, but it's 75.6 or 76 point something, I forget what it is. For women, it's always higher. 2017, their average life expectancy was 81.1 years. This is the mortality. This is not the most important. The most important thing is the morbidity. Another that is the healthy life expectancy. Okay, so for the man, 2007, whatever it is, you can read it, I cannot, but his healthy life expectancy is 70.4 years, which means for 5.7 years at the end of his life, he's got at least one, usually three lifestyle diseases, which means his quality is gone. All right, women is always going to be worse. They live longer, 81.1 years, but their healthy life expectancy is 67.7 years, which means 13.4 years of some type of morbid condition that takes away the quality of their life. Now, I want to say this right now. You'll hear me saying it. I don't know again during this program, but you have to understand, you got to tell the people, if you're talking older people, you have to tell them this: old age is not a disease. Old age is a reward for living a long time, but unhealthiness in old age is a result of accumulated bad habits over a lifetime. Good thing is we can reverse that pretty quickly. Ask your people, how many known diseases are there? How many are recognized books, diseases in the books? It's somewhere in the neighborhood of 100,000 known diseases, and there's new ones every year. Interesting point at this point, the new diseases. Do you realize that 75% of all emerging diseases, and this comes from a big study in France, are zoonotic diseases? That means they come through the vector of an animal. A lot of which means, well, basically we realize at the end of time, the whole animal kingdom would be diseased. Might be a good idea not to eat the things. Okay, so we're not going to study 100,000 diseases. We'd spend a whole lifetime studying them, and then we'd die before we could do anything about it. How many types of perfect health are there? Well, simple answer, there's just one. So my recommendation is, rather than studying disease, why don't we go back and study health? How can I present my body, as Paul says in Romans 12:1, a living sacrifice, holy, acceptable to God, which is my reasonable service? But I love what he says in verse 2. He says, don't be conformed to the world. Be transformed in your mind. Basically, he's saying, get out of your Babylonian mind. Now, what's the best treatment? We're talking about back to basics. What's the best treatment for a chronic disease? I'll tell you, it's very simple. Practice the prevention of that disease. If someone has heart disease, all they've got to do is go back and start living the way they should have lived, not to get the heart disease, and that will reverse the disease. When I was taking flight training, they taught something very, very important, because one of the worst things that can happen to you when you're flying an airplane is you go into a spin. Once you're into a spin, it's pretty much over for you, because you panic and you're trying to correct the problem. The reason you got into the spin is because you were doing the problem. You were making mistakes. You were cross-controlling, whatever it was. And here's what my instructor told me to do. If you get into a spin, take your hands off the yoke, take your feet off the rudders, and just sit there. You might say a prayer while you're sitting there. The plane will fly itself. It will come out. If you quit doing the wrong thing, it's exactly the same with chronic diseases. What is a disease? This is the best definition you will ever hear of a disease. Disease is an effort of nature to free the system from conditions that result from a violation of the laws of health. This Councils on Health, page 90. Simple as that. If we could just take that one little statement right there and live by it, we'd have a lot less disease. But it's followed by 3 suggestions. Here's the first, I call them steps. In case of sickness, the cause should be ascertained. Let me give you an example of that. A number of years ago, I went to Ukraine. I think it was 2003. OCI was doing a large Ukrainian-wide evangelistic crusades. I had one of them in the little city of Hodorif. Wonderful time there. But the first Sabbath, I flew from Atlanta to Kiev, went back to Lviv. I had lost 7 hours sleep. You're already weak. If you lose 2 hours sleep, your immune system is cut in half. I'm invited to a lady's house for lunch on Sabbath. A lovely lunch. I love Ukrainian food. When she got done, she cleared the table and she brought out a large platter of cookies, kiosk cookies, the cookies that they made and sell down there in the kiosk on the street. And I thought, the white flour, fat, and sugar, not healthy. But she had gone to extra expense to give me a special treat. And so I decided I'll eat just one to be polite. And I took that one. Oh, I'm a cookie monster. I love cookies. I thought, well, I'll be doubly polite. So I took the second cookie. And triply and quadruple and quintuple. I had a large amount of cookies and I suffered from the signs of sickness for 1 week. The cause wasn't I got a bug in the air. The problem was I made my immune system weak. Okay, second step. Unhealthful conditions should be changed, wrong habits corrected. Simple as that. If you're drinking the wrong things, and most people do, we need to start drinking the right things because that's one of the laws of health, water. If you're eating, notice I said water. Everyone wants to drink everything else in the world. Water is what God made for us to drink. If you're eating the wrong things, start eating the right things. And if you're doing the wrong things, start doing the right things. Simple as that. Correct your bad habits. And that's what we're talking about here. We're talking about the laws of health. That's why we got to go beyond 8 laws of health. Third step, then nature is to be assisted in her effort to expel impurities and reestablish right conditions in the system. So how do we do that? Well, we can use things like hydrotherapy. Wonderful. There's power in water. And I'll be showing you a case history if we get that far in this little program. Second thing, you can use herbs. And I just love to use herbs. And I think I told about some of those last time. I had a bicycle wreck 8 years ago, broke 7 bones, 5 of them being fractured ribs. They were healed in 1 month using comfrey poultices. You can use charcoal. I think everyone's aware of charcoal. And it's amazing. And you can find that everywhere. As a matter of fact, in India and Africa, in most places, they cook with charcoal. Easy to find this stuff and make it and use it. Okay, so now back to basics. The basic foundation principle of health. If any of you were my students in the past, I know I got lots of emails from the last program, and some of you have been my students. The basic foundation principle of health is reason from cause to effect. Always go there first. Here's what I teach my students. When a person comes to you, first thing you do is you listen to them. I've talked about that with showing sympathy for people in the last program. I listen to them. They tell me their case history. And the case history will tell you a lot. And when they get done with the case history, they've named a number of symptoms. The first question you ask is, how long have you had these symptoms? Sometimes they'll answer it like that. You're on the right track. If they say, I don't know, all my life or whatever, you might not be as close, but you always ask that question first. If they give you a time, and I'll be telling you a story about this later. The second question is, what happened? If they said 3 months ago, what happened 3 months ago? I was talking to a person just this last year. I asked her how long she had this problem. 3 weeks. Did you start a medication 3 weeks ago? Well, yes, I did. Let me look at the spec sheets. Well, it was her symptom of the medication. So it's very simple. Reason from cause to effect. This is a very interesting little graph here. Major risk factors for disease and death in most countries. Look at which one of these things are lifestyle related. Diet, yes. Hypertension, yes. Alcohol, smoking, body mass index, sedentary lifestyle, hypertension. Wait a minute. I can't read what that one is down here. Probably the same thing, wasn't it? I made a mistake there. High cholesterol. Bad air is the only thing that isn't a lifestyle factor, unless the fact is, have we had any bad air in the last year? Do you realize when you wear the mask, you're breathing bad air? Breathing your own carbon dioxide. As a matter of fact, your lungs are the biggest detoxifier in your body, volume-wise, because every time you breathe out carbon dioxide, that is a waste product. And we've been rebreathing our carbon dioxide. not really the best idea in the world. Okay, reason from cause to effect. Here's just a few statements. We're not going to spend much time. You can look at those things there. Child guidance, page 362, paragraph 1. Teach your children to reason from cause to effect. Sounds like a pretty good idea to me. All right, not just to children, dealing with the patients on a sanitarium, teach them to reason from cause to effect. Counsels on diets and foods, page 285. But it's more than that. Our workers should use their knowledge of the laws of health. They should study from cause to effect. We all need to start realizing and studying, why do I feel this way? As I said a week ago, I came back from Uchee Pines a week ago yesterday. And I'd gotten up early, drove all day, but I'd been there for 2 weeks. And I tried to be temperate. I only was able to run twice. They had a lot of rain. The place I was staying, one time I looked at the thermostat, it was 69, and you're coming in from the outside and you're wet. I just was in bad shape and I got weak, and whatever it was got me. But I fought it all week with zinc and vitamin C and D3 and other things. I did a few things that are in other books that are funny. Anyway, 11 health habits that will help you live to be 100. This was an interesting article found in U.S. News and World Reports by this woman named Deborah Kuntz. Her number 8 suggestion, if you want to live to be 100, you know what it is? Live like a Seventh-day Adventist. She's not a Seventh-day Adventist. She knows the Loma Linda health study, which has been going on for many, many years. And basically she's saying, if you want to live to be 100, live like an Adventist. But that said, Adventists live all kinds of different ways. And the Adventist health study does a beautiful job of showing if you are eating like the world, if you're lacto-ovo, if you're lacto-ovo fish-o chico, if you're lacto-ovo ice creamo, or if you're vegan. Now, vegan, that's a touchy subject. I was with Dr. Agatha Thrash at Bucknell University in Pennsylvania some years ago. They were having a vegan conference. And I had a booth there with, our Uchee Pines had a booth. And across from us was a feminist for animal rights. All right, I'm all for animal rights. And one day that hulking lady that was in charge of the booth came over and she cast her eyes at my belt and she says, "Real vegans don't wear leather." So don't tell people you're a vegan unless you're really a vegan. That means you've got patent leather shoes and you're wearing some acrylic belts. You are a whole food, plant-based vegetarian. Hopefully that will do the job. Okay, we got our foundation principle of health, reason from cause to effect. On that foundation, we have 3 golden pillars. The first golden pillar, excuse me. The first golden pillar is the life is in the blood. We find that in the book of Leviticus. So where do we get our blood from? What we put into our bodies. If we're putting, the old thing, GIGO, garbage in, garbage out, our blood is made from the food that we eat. Whatever you ate at your last meal is already in your bloodstream. It's already building tissue. It's already forming your thoughts, because we can be affected profoundly by our food. So the life is in the blood. That's the first golden pillar. The second golden pillar, just as important, perfect health requires a perfect circulation. You can have the best blood in the world, but if you don't have good circulation because you are wearing constrictive clothing, you're heating your chest and your arms are cold, you got vasoconstriction, you got vasodilation, you're congesting your heart, not good for you. So another way we can put this is get out and get some exercise. That's a good way to get good circulation. But if you can't exercise, massage is passive exercise. It's very important for those people who cannot get around to give them massage. Thermal and physical effects of water on circulation, things like derivation and flexion. It's a wonderful way to get our blood moving through our bodies. Vasodilation, the sunshine dilates our blood vessels. If a person exercises in the sunshine, they can lower their blood pressure 15%. That's pretty impressive. Medication's not going to do that, and there's no side effects. Blood viscosity. If we are drinking our water, our blood will not be so viscous. We can then circulate the blood. Now, let me go back to this idea about the aspirin a day. If a person is high cholesterol, overweight, don't get much exercise, I still would not recommend the aspirin a day. Something will work better and just as well without the side effects. How about a raw clove of garlic every day? It has an antiplatelet stickiness factor, which will keep the blood moving without forming clots when you don't want it to. Or you can use about a 5-ounce glass of grape juice every day, not grape juice cocktail, true grape juice. This has an antiplatelet stickiness factor, which will help your blood stay much less viscous. Another thing is what we do with our bodies. So what we put into our bodies and what we do with our bodies. But then we have the third golden pillar. To me, probably this is the most important, our attitude about life. How important is that? See that lady in the middle in the lavender sweater and the white pants? She's celebrating her 90th birthday. That's my mother. That's the only way I ever saw my mother. She was a happy person. We had a birthday every 5 years for her, starting at 75. This is her 90th. 64 family members from all over the country gathered because everyone loved Priscilla Hayes. She was a wonderful woman. I used the past tense. She died last year at 96. Probably shouldn't have, but she did. My grandmother is 96 when she died. My great-grandmother is 96 when she died. Had an uncle died at 107. Genetics has a lot to do with it, but nurture has a lot to do with it also. Okay, so we got our foundation, reason, cause to effect, the 3 golden pillars. On top of that, we've got the laws of health. Now, you have been taught about the 8 laws of health. I don't talk about the 8 laws of health. I talk about the 15 laws of health. To me, they're very important. So when we list the laws of health, we need to come up with some type of an acronym. What type of things did Sister White use or other people? We use New Start, we use wellness, we use God's plan. All these are sometimes really convoluted to try to find the 8 laws in this thing that came out of Ministry of Healing. What terms did Ellen White use? She used things like true remedies, laws of nature, blessings which heaven has bestowed upon man, rational remedies, God's physicians, remedies for the one of which thousands are dying. That sounds like God's laws of health, does it not? I recommend that you look up each one of these because this is one of the ways I found the other laws of health. True remedies. She's got some listed there, but she'll throw extra ones in. We're going to look at each one of these. So we got this nutrition thing, okay? And this is the New Start that we're used to. Nutrition, exercise, water, sunshine, temperance, air, rest, and trusting in the Lord. Well, now let's go over God's plan. We've got sunshine, we've got trust. You're going to find that the steward is the same. If you just stop at steward, we got the 8 laws of health. Exercise, W, water, air. But at air, we've got to separate because she's very clear in adding another part of the law there. She uses the one called cheerfulness or attitude. She used cheerfulness. I said, basically, it's all about your attitude. And we all realize that. Here's where one of the statements comes from. Physicians often advise their patients to take an ocean voyage, to go to some mineral spring, or to visit places for a change of climate in order to regain. When in 9 cases out of 10, that's a large percentage, 9 cases out of 10. Let me just stop right there for a moment. 90% of diseases are psychosomatic. They begin in the mind. We convince ourselves in 9 cases out of 10, if they would, here it is, eat temperately and engage in healthful exercise, cheerful spirit, they would regain health and save time and money. That's the 9th law of health, attitude or a cheerful spirit. That's my mother and daughter out in the Joshua Tree National Monument where I used to be stationed. Happiness may be a more important factor than not smoking. This is what science is telling us now. So I recommend we do that. Rest, all right, that's one of the 8 laws, but there's another R, and that's going to be regularity. Regularity in all things. It's so important that we're regular in our habits. Here's a statement. The importance of regularity in the times of eating and sleeping should not be overlooked. So basically, and we'll always find time to eat. We're always going to find time to sleep, but it's doing it at the right times. We're told it's better to eat a meal 5 minutes early than 5 minutes late. Now, I'm not that strict right now, but I need to get probably a little bit more strict with myself. But we need to follow regularity. And I showed you, there were 4 pictures. One showed exercise and one showed study. If you do not have a time set aside for exercise and study, you will never have time, because das Gute ist der Feind des Besten. The good is the enemy of the best. And we've got to make sure we got time for these things. Diet, all right, that was nutrition in New Start. But there's another D. It's called dress. Is that important? What we wear. We need to dress for the occasion. Now, I'm not going to get into a big display on dress, because basically this is one of the crosses that many people just cannot carry. But here's one statement. Parents who dress their children with the extremities naked or nearly so are sacrificing the health and lives of their children to fashion. We also sacrifice our morals to fashion. There's so many things. And I'm not just talking about women. Guys do the same thing. I remember years ago, I was walking into the education building at Uchee Pines, and one of our staff members, Elder John Champlin, was behind me, and he says, "Don, your jeans a little bit tight, aren't they?" They were a pair of corduroys, and they were a little bit tight. And I never considered that. I don't have, I don't look back there. I didn't wear them again, because if someone says that's maybe not proper, I decided probably not to do that. Okay, self-control. We know what that one is. All right, now we're going to get into the H's of stewardship, herbs. And I was going to throw some more pictures in here, because there's some amazing things that we have done with herbs. I've already told you about comfort with my situation, but here's what the Spirit of Prophecy says. It is no denial of faith to use rational remedies judiciously. Look at this: water, air, and sunshine. These are God's healing agents. The use of certain herbs. So she groups herbs together with water, air, and sunshine. To me, she's saying this is another law of health. God changed man's diet in Genesis chapter 3 because of sin. He's now to eat the herb of the field. And you go out into the garden, your field, not the garden, your yard, there are good foods out in the yard that are medicines for us, like dandelion, fantastic medicine. Plantain, people dig them out and throw them away. No, dig them out and eat them. Okay. Another one of the statements in second selected messages 291. So basically, she's throwing herbs in there with the other ones. Hygiene or cleanliness. She uses the word cleanliness. I made it into hygiene, which is fine too. Pure air, water, cleanliness. So she threw that in there with air, water, and some of the other ones. And then we go down to innocence or a clear conscience. I'm going to tell you a story about this one. But anyway, here's the statement. God's physicians, 8 doctors? No, 15 doctors. Pure air, pure water, proper exercise, a clear conscience. So very important. And then the last one is purity of life. Comes from the same statement, proper diet, purity of life, and a trust in God are remedies for the want of which thousands are dying. But let me go back up to the innocent one. It's a very important story. Let me check my time here. Whoa, 1852. I don't know if I'm supposed to stop. Let me just see if I can be finished here.
Okay.
All right. Well,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
we'd rather hear the message. It's so amazing.
Okay. Well, let me just go back to the story I want to tell you about innocence. I was near the city of Oita, Japan, some years ago, and there was a place there called New Start Village. Maybe some of you have been there. If any of you are from Japan, love the place. And I gave a weekend's worth of lectures. And at the end of the lectures, a woman came to me, and she looked bowed down with problems, like the lady in the sanctuary bent over at the waist, but she didn't have ankylosing spondylitis, but she had problems. She sat down with a sad face and she says, I've got pain all over my body. I can't digest my food well. I don't sleep well at night. I've got depression. I get panic attacks. I've got skin problems. She went down this long list of problems. And then she finally got done. I let her speak it all out. When she got done, she just looked at me with those sad eyes. What's my first question? I already told you. What's my first question? I say, how long have you had these symptoms? I knew they were symptomatic. You don't have that many problems and still be alive. She says, I've had them didn't even hesitate, 42 years. What's your second question? What happened 42 years ago? She says, I got very sick. They took me to the hospital. They examined me and they found two medical conditions. They said I had appendicitis and they told me that I was pregnant. And she says, when they told me I was pregnant, I said, oh, my husband doesn't want me having children yet. And the doctor says, if you don't mind, we'll take care of that problem. And she said, okay. She didn't have time to think. She's thinking about what her husband's going to think. When the surgery was over, appendix was gone and the little girl was gone. They told her it was a little girl. I just found the problem. And whenever I give this lecture, I ask people, what's their problem? The first one anyone ever says is guilt. Exactly. What do you do with guilt? She was on all the medications for 42 years. They had tried everything and nothing was better, rather grew worse. What do you do with guilt? There's only one way you can deal with guilt, and that's go to 1 John 1:9. Now, she was a Christian lady. So we opened the Bible and I turned to 1 John 1:9, and I didn't just read it to her. I didn't have her read it. I unpacked the verse. We spent time. What did it cost Jesus to forgive our sins? What was laid upon Jesus on the way of the Garden of Gethsemane? What does Jesus want to do? Take that weight from us. And so basically, we dealt with that one. And we went down each one of her problems. She was carrying this heavy weight. We went to Matthew 11:28-30. Come unto me, all ye that labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. She had no peace. We went to John 14, verse 27. Peace I give unto you, not as the world gives unto you. So basically, and we unpacked the verses. I probably spent 2 hours with this lady, but we got to the last problem, the little girl. What about the little girl? Because that little girl's been gone now for 42 years. I took her to 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, verse 16. And I read it to her. I says, if you are faithful, it says, and he's going to come with a shout of a voice angel and trumpet God, and the dead in Christ shall rise first. Then we which are alive and remain shall be caught up with them, and so shall we ever be with the Lord in the air. I said, if you're faithful, when Jesus comes and you're rising in the air, an angel's going to come and hand you that baby to raise in heaven. I believe this was all in my heart. You know what? So did she. In 2 days, she was completely well. She could sleep, digest, no pain, no panic attacks, no depression. She was completely over. And I think the same trip in Japan, another lady who had been committed to an insane asylum by her husband and her family, and she believed she was a bad woman. We talked for hours, and she was completely well while we sat there, because she finally got it into her head, I'm not the person they said that I was. All right, back to the purity of life. If you've been to Africa, and I've spent a lot of time in Africa, orphanages full of AIDS orphans. Both parents have died of AIDS, and there they are, what we are left with. And abortion crosses, most of it is caused by lack of purity of life. If you don't want to have children, you know what to do or what not to do. So there's the acronym that I came up with: stewardship, sunlight, trust, exercise, water, air, attitude, rest, regularity, diet, dress, self-control, hygiene, herbs, innocence, and purity of life. What Know you not that you are the temple of the living God, and you are not your own, you are bought with a price? You know, Paul is very clear in 1 Thessalonians 6 and 2 Corinthians 6 and 2 Corinthians 6 about the fact that we do not belong to ourselves. We are God's. We are only a steward of this body. I like the way one person put it. Our body is God's gift to us. What we do with it is our gift to God. We need to take care of these bodies if we really want to please him. Okay, I'm going to give you just a little story here. Exodus 3, verse 2. This is when Moses met Jesus at the burning bush. And a long conversation ensued because he did not want to go down to Egypt. He said, I can no longer speak. I'm a timid man. And God asked him a question. He says, what's in your hand? This is Exodus 4, verses 11 and 12. He says, what's in your hand? And he says, well, it's a rod. And what was he able to do with that rod? First of all, what's the principle? Here's the principle. Whatever the problem is, the solution is somewhere around you. Everywhere I go in the world, and I'll show you an example of that in a moment. So he was able to, there we go, part the sea, bring out the water out of the rock, hold it up, and the battle is won, and throw it down and turn it into a serpent. He was able to do many things with that. Okay, this child, I was teaching my students there in Riverside Farm in Zambia, and every afternoon they'd run off and try to find patients, and they found this little girl. You can see her ear. Now, was it MRSA? I don't know what it was. It looked like a bad staph infection. She had had this for a long time. Her parents had sold everything they had. They're trying to sell their house to get more money for more treatments. They've been to every doctor, every clinic, every hospital, taken every medication they could afford, and she was no better, rather grew worse. My students came thundering back, what can we do? And I said, what's in your hand? What do we have right here that she needs? She needs something astringent and antiseptic. Oh, we got some aloe vera growing over there. We need something antibiotic. Oh, there's some echinacea growing over there. We had charcoal, we had garlic, we had all these things. I brought I cheated, some golden seal powder from America. We put all these things together in some olive oil, and we made an ointment out of this stuff, just right there, right then. And then I said, take it out. And whenever I go to Africa, I carry bulb syringes with me. I say, it's all, packaged in cellophane. I say, take it out there, have them irrigate the child's ear. At nighttime, have them put this oil all around and in the ear, put some cotton in the ear to keep it in there. And in the daytime, have a charcoal poultice over the ear. That's all they had to do. Keep it irrigated, keep this ointment on it at night, keep the charcoal poultice in the daytime. 1 week later, this is what we had. Now, you have to look at the eyes. Look at her eyes here, glassy. She cries all the time. Look at the eyes here. No, she's not been crying. What you're seeing here is healing. There's no more pus. There's no more infection. There's no more inflammation. Within 2 more weeks, it was completely gone. With what? What was in her hand. What we could find right there. I believe there's a cure for every known disease in our area. Poison ivy, there's always going to be something like Virginia creeper growing around. Virginia creeper is the antidote to poison ivy. Something's going to be there to be able to help us to not be sick. God does not want us being sick. And if you might say, but COVID is so bad, my recommendation is you go to Psalm 91 and memorize it. He that dwells in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. We need to memorize that because that is the psalm for the year 2021 and until Jesus comes. Because brothers and sisters, it is getting no better. Go back to basics. Reason from cause to effect. Keep your blood good. That means what you put into your body. Keep your blood circulating. Drink your water. Get your exercise. Get your sunshine. And have the right attitude. I have a whole lecture just on the law of the mind. Now, I know that last week you had Dr. Sandoval on the law of life. Frankly, we were there at the same time, and I'm always in another country. I've not even seen his law of life program. But no matter if person has the same program, he got his from Horst Mueller, and they're both brilliant men. We can all say the same thing in different ways, and we can all learn something new. So I've got more, but maybe I better stop there. You tell me.
Thank you so much. Seems that we have some questions.
Okay.
So, Dr. Yang, you have the questions ready?
No, I actually don't really see any questions, but right now, everyone, just a reminder, we're on Zoom meeting, so feel free to come on video and maybe you can just unmute to ask any questions you might have. But let me just get my video back going. Hi, everyone. I'm gonna go ahead and unshare. Is that okay, Dr. Don?
Sure, fine. I just know the story.
Cool. I'm just gonna let Lavinia in. So, you know, I learned about comfrey through our medical missionary group, and I have comfrey on my finger right now.
What happened?
I sliced it trying to cook, and I usually don't cut myself. I'm very careful because I'm a dentist. And without the comfrey, I wouldn't be working this whole week. So, yes, you know, I have Neosporin because I used to use Neosporin, but I did Cayenne and, you know, got hemostasis.
Stop
And
the bleeding.
and then I did the comfrey, and it was Monday night. Today is Saturday. Yeah, it's almost there. And I've been working throughout. I had to add extra, but as soon as the comfrey poultice went on, just the pain, everything, it was great. So very fast healing, very, very fast. Yeah.
We have a question here, Dr. Donald. Here we are at the Lifestyle Center in Jeffrey Store. We having a program. Just gonna show you have a good audience here.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah. Go ahead, ask a question.
Okay. Hi, Dr. Donald. I have a question. My husband is suffering from migraine since he was 14 years old, and now he's 69.
Oh.
And then I think just 2 years ago, he started having a restless leg, only one leg. So I don't know what's the cost for it and what is the best natural remedy for that.
Well, let's go with the migraine first. I mean, of course, it's not a constant migraine. He would not be alive anymore. How often does he have the migraine?
Oh, almost every day.
Every day.
Yes. And usually it is early morning.
Okay. Before he eats?
Pardon me?
Before he eats?
Yes.
When he wakes up, laying there in the bed, he has a migraine, or he gets up and he does something, gets the migraine?
Yeah, sometimes he woke up with a migraine, and if not in the morning, in the afternoon.
Okay.
Well, it sounds like sleep breathing disorder to me.
Please?
It sounds like a sleep breathing disorder. Does he snore or grind his teeth when he's sleeping?
No.
Mm-hmm. But he has restless leg syndrome, and he migraines too.
Yeah.
He should get a sleep test.
But the migraines, the restless leg is something more recent. Let me just give you a simple treatment to give it a try for the migraine. It's something that I've seen it worked in Fontaine, South Africa, and I've used it on myself in Ukraine at Nosh Dome. Very simple. Have him sit on a stool outside or over a bathtub, hanging his head down, and pour cold water on the back of his neck till it runs over his head.
Oh.
About a gallon's worth or more. 4 gallons. I like more the merrier. About a minute's worth of cold water being poured on the nape of his neck, running over his head. When he gets done, have him lean back, lift his feet, and then spray or pour cold water on his feet. That will usually stop a migraine headache. It sounds strange, but it works. It also is a good way to stop an asthma attack.
Oh, okay.
Dr. Helen Yaw, a physician in Georgia, did that with her son, and she could not get any breath sounds from him. She did that, and he was breathing fine afterwards. Give that a try. As far as restless legs, you know, I'm sure he doesn't do any caffeine, right?
He's not drinking coffee, but he likes soda.
He likes soda.
Soda?
Yeah.
Drinks.
What kind of soda?
Dr. Pepper.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's addicting. Very addicting.
Yes.
Dr.
Now we found out.
Yeah.
That
Okay,
is his
you gotta
favorite.
stop that first and
We're laughing,
we still
doctor.
have an issue.
You know,
That's the point.
first of all, we're living in a world right now. If you look at the ingredients of your Dr. Pepper, and I haven't looked at Dr. Pepper ingredients in years and years, but I can pretty much guarantee you that the sweetener they use is high fructose corn syrup. Not going to cause you restless legs. Was going to cause you fatty liver, which you don't want to have either.
Oh,
He's got to get off these things because basically he's doing damage to his whole body with this stuff. The caffeine in there, you know, we always think caffeine's in Coca-Cola. No, caffeine is higher in Mountain Dew than Coca-Cola. I don't know what percentage it is in Dr. Pepper, but I know it's caffeine in Dr. Pepper. He's got to be off those things. All caffeine, off of all. If he likes chocolate, off of chocolate.
yes.
Bromine, which is theobromine, is one of the leading causes. Theobromine, which is in chocolate, cheese, and wine, all are big causes of migraine headaches. So my recommendation is put him on a very simple diet. No Dr. Pepper, no cheese, none of this stuff. Very simple, whole grains, whole fruits, whole vegetables for 10 days. I always call it a Daniel fast, and see if things don't amazingly get better for the man. Now, the hard part is getting him to do it.
I know.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Doc.
We have Dana just posted a YouTube video, so you might want to look at that. And Lilia is asking, what about piriformis and or sciatica that will not go away? Is this severe inflammation?
Well, inflammation we deal with. We can, there's natural anti-inflammatories, but we got to deal with the basic problem. If you got sciatica, what's causing the sciatica? We can take painkillers, but it doesn't fix the basic problem. I know that one of the things we recommend, let's say I'm sitting here at my desk and I've got sciatica down my left side. Usually it's going to be one of the other sides because the sciatic nerve comes out, goes down through the buttocks on either side. If I'm always leaning over to my right, I'm opening up that space, my vertebral space, and causing allowing the disc to come more out. So I'm always going to be impinging more upon it. What we recommend is if you have it on the left side, if you're always doing a repetitive action, always do it to the same side. So now you're squeezing it shut each time. That could help. We also recommend, and this is an interesting one, pile some pillows up in the middle of your bed. Have the person lie over the pillows. The pillows are under the waist. So they're basically laying butt up, okay? And then put heat over the sciatic area, the lower back. As you apply the heat, it's going to relax the muscles. You always want to relax muscles when you're doing a massage. Here we're going to just relax it so we get some releasing going on here. And basically, sciatica is usually caused by you've got an impinging disc. I've got sciatica since I lifted a really heavy box in the Marine Corps back in 1973. And I'll tell you what you need to do about that. Anyway, leave that sit there for about a half hour and then have this person do a push-up just from the waist up. Basically, it causes the vertebrae to push the disc back inside, hopefully. But what you really need to do when there's a time when the sciatica is not so bad, you need to get a good set of back exercises, lifting the legs, whatever. Go on the internet, you'll find 1,000 exercises for the back. You do them religiously, as long as they don't hurt. Simple exercises, if you build up the musculature of your spine, let me just give you an illustration. There are towers out there that are straight up. At the bottom is narrow, the top is narrow. It's held up by guy wires in 3 different directions. Let's say this is your spine. If one of these cables on this tower is broken, it's going to bend the tower and it's going to affect it very badly. These cables are the muscles. If you have strong muscles, you'll have a strong back. And when I do my exercises, my back never hurts. It's all about building the musculature to protect the back.
Awesome.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I would think that a lot of us have a sedentary lifestyle, so this is a problem in many of us. So that was great advice. Lilia also is asking, do you have a go-to herb that you can't live without?
Well, it depends on how you classify herbs. I cannot do without charcoal. Of course, it came from a tree, so in a way it is an herb. But there are many of others. You know, I can't say tea tree oil. I always carry tea tree oil with me. It's a very nice oil. I get aptheous ulcers if I if I traumatize my gums, my lips, my gums, or if I am stressed. If I put some on there, it won't develop. Great on wounds. Aloe vera, fantastic to have around, as I've already mentioned, is antiseptic. It is astringent. I had herpes in Ukraine some years ago. I'd given a friend of mine a tube of aloe vera gel, had them apply that on my back, gone. Didn't bother me, never got post-herpetic neuralgia. Now, herpes is bad, but post-herpetic neuralgia is even worse. So what do you do for post-herpetic neuralgia? Get some alcohol, isopropyl, and some cayenne pepper. How much? Couple tablespoons. Shake it up. How much alcohol? People always ask these questions. I say a pint of alcohol, couple tablespoons of cayenne pepper, shake it up every day for 3 weeks. And then you strain the alcohol into another jar. Then you take your fingers and you dip it in this. Now it's going to be full of capsicum. It's going to be red. You just rub it over the area of your shingles. It will take up what's called P substance. P substance is what a neurotransmitter of pain. It may take months, but I've known people suffering from post-herpetic neuralgia for years. You put it on there, takes up the P substance, and it will be gone.
Thank you
Okay,
so
other
much.
herbs, whatever I can find. Here's the best thing to do. Find out the most common herbs in your area. Comfrey, fantastic. Plantain, as good as comfrey for healing wounds internally, ulcers, whatever you want, and it grows out everywhere. That should be your favorite go-to herb. For high blood pressure, the root of a dandelion is a diuretic. It helps you diurese, which is going to take salt out of your system, which is going to take away some of the swelling, pushing against your blood vessels. Therefore, it should bring down your blood pressure. Of course, there's lots more involved with blood pressure too.
Wonderful.
Awesome.
Thank you so much.
We have 2 more questions here.
Okay.
One of our guests, something for insomnia, that's one, and the other one is she said, I lost my voice for 2 years. Might be a broad question, but why don't you try insomnia first, please? Miller.
Yeah, right. Well, insomnia, again, with insomnia, what's the basic foundation principle of health? You remember? Reason from cause to effect. So what you got to do is look back and say, what are we doing wrong? Are we getting exercise during the daytime? That would be the right thing. People who don't exercise sometimes aren't tired at night. What is your bedtime routine? What are you doing before you go to bed? How long before you go to bed do you eat? You should have an empty stomach when you go to bed. You should have a nice, comfortable bed in a nice dark room, as comfortable as you can make it. So it's all these other things involved in there. There are some aids that we can take. Now, I don't know, what country are you in?
Philippines.
As I thought, you're in the Philippines. I don't know what all you're going to have there. I doubt that you have valerian, which is probably a good thing because valerian tea tastes, well, it smells very much like a dirty athletic sock. But you probably can get hops there. Hops is the main constituent of beer. And let's see, let me try to remember right now. I shouldn't remember this, but the most popular San Miguel. You know San Miguel? Yeah, I was in the Marines in the Philippines. I know all about San Miguel. That's a Filipino beer, but it's the hops in the beer that is a nice sedative. There's other nice sedatives too, like catnip. Another thing you can do, a person can't sleep, they're laying there. Here's what you do. You tense up your foot. Your right foot, you curl your toes, and you make it as tense as you can. Usually gonna go all the way up your calf. Hold it for 10 seconds, relax. Do the other leg. Then you try to do your quadriceps, your upper legs on the one side, 10 seconds, relax. Other side, do your abs, you tense them up. Usually, if you go through this routine, before you get up to tensing up your jaw, you're tired. It's just something about tensing and releasing that can help you do this. A nice tepid bath will help you. If you're used to taking a cold shower or a hot shower, these things stimulate. You need something tepid to help you. And but again, look at your lifestyle. What are you doing that might be a sleep robber? When you go to bed, take nothing to bed with you. Don't take a book. Don't take your computer. Don't have your cell phone right by your bed to wake you up every 5 minutes because someone tweeted you. You want to be alone. Well, if you're married, you don't have to be alone, but you want to be quiet, at peace, at night. And if you can do nothing else, don't count sheep. Talk to the shepherd.
Amen. Yeah, I think a lot of us don't realize how inactive we are throughout the day. As a dentist, my job is kind of labor intensive, like mental, emotionally too, but then very labor intensive. But there was a time when my dental assistant, after surgery, couldn't come back for a while, so I was doing a little bit more work in in place of my dental assistant during that time. So I was running around quite a bit more, and I would get exhausted and sleep like an hour and a half to 2 hours earlier than I used to. So I realized I'm exerting a lot of energy throughout the day, but I really wasn't. And I think you'd be surprised how inactive you actually are once you start to try to be more active, and that might really help. And then the early morning sunshine, I think, is super important too. There's some other suggestions here. Chamomile. Dr. Don, do you have any opinions about chamomile and ashwagandha, the Indian herb, as a sleep aid?
I don't know about the Indian herb, but chamomile, I use it all. I don't have any problem sleeping, but I have it. As a matter of fact, I had a cup last night before I went to bed. There are many herbs. My recommendation always, a person go in your own country, find an herb book from your own country, what you have in your own country, and find out what they recommend there. You can go online. You can find all kinds of stuff online if you have internet, but apparently you do because you're watching this right now on Zoom. So I would recommend you do that. Now, you mentioned something else, Doc, about exercise. When you've got a high stress job, you're a dentist, you go into hypertonic stress. You got the stress all day long. You have to, sometime during the day, you got to burn that off because that stress will keep you awake. And so you got to at least 30 minutes of intense exercise to help burn it off. If you are a hard worker all day, you're out there working in your rice field, whatever, you're in hypotonic stress. In the evening time, you need to sit down and de-stress by relaxing some. So it's two different types of stress. For professionals, well, some professionals work all day. For those who have sedentary jobs, it's hypertonic stress, and you got to let it go because that is going to be the stress that you go to bed with, and that stress will not let you sleep. your
Mm.
mind's going to be running a mile a minute.
This is extremely good advice. And I think during the pandemic, like Lilia said, just during the pandemic, working at home constantly, definitely will keep so sedentary, hypertonic, so burn it off, at least 30 minutes of intense exercise. But if it's the opposite, then really relax in the evening. That's really, really good advice. David is asking about a substitute for a CPAP for sleep apnea. So
About what?
I mean, the CPAP machine, positive airway pressure. So maybe I need to respond to this, but for anybody with sleep breathing disorders, is there something you would recommend? Anti-inflammatory, something to help reduce that adrenaline when they wake up in the morning. Anything that you would recommend?
Anti-inflammatory? You say?
Anything
The best anti-inflammatories are things like flaxseed. Great thing in the morning because it's high fiber, it's omega-3 fatty acids, it is anti-inflammatory. My favorite one would be curcuma, turmeric, big in Indian food. Now, most people just take a spoonful, put it in water and drink it down. That's fine. But if you want 12 times more effect, bring a little bit of water to a boil. How much water? Okay, a pint of water to a boil. Once it's boiling, slowly boiling, you add the curcuma. How much? 2 or 3 teaspoons. Stir it up. Let it simmer for 10 minutes. Take it off. Cool. Drink within 3 hours. You're getting 12 times more of the anti-inflammatory effect. It's amazing how strong it is. Just go on the internet. The benefits of curcuma or turmeric.
Curcuma?
Curcuma, just turmeric.
Oh, it's turmeric.
Turmeric.
Okay.
Curcuma is a phytochemical.
Okay, phytochemical in the turmeric.
Right. But it's absolutely astoundingly amazing what it does with pain.
Yeah, I had HIV
Dr. Miller,
patient.
I just want to, go ahead, finish.
Oh, just HIV patients who are.
There's something here that's it's very important. Very important to say because Rebecca is saying, I heard you need black pepper for turmeric to be absorbed. We've been counseled not to use black pepper, right? So
no, you don't do that.
Yeah,
if you just do like I said, you heat it, or you can also, I like to mix it with coconut oil. If it's mixed with the oil, see what that does, it gets through the pylorus into the duodenum. It's not destroyed by stomach acid. The coconut oil is broken down, and now the curcuma is available for your body's use. So no, don't use the pepper.
So the coconut oil kind of acts like a delay release encapsulation for.
Yes, exactly. You get oil in your hands, you're not going to wash off with cold water. It's going to go right on through. So this protects it until it gets through the pylorus into the duodenum, and that's where it's going to get acted upon.
Wonderful. Thank you for that. Amazing. So the whole black pepper thing, the Indian, I'm married to an Indian, so I know, but their turmeric milk is turmeric and black pepper and milk. And that's their tradition. And black pepper is always done because it says it increases the absorption.
Yes,
so
it does.
again, it's harmful for the gut. So the coconut oil, that's amazing. Thank you so much for that advice. Wasn't there another question, Mercy, that you had? There were 2 questions and we went over insomnia. Is the other one?
Yeah, the other question was,
this is Bob, Mariana. This is Bob, Mariana's husband. I have a question, if it's possible.
Okay, sure. Go ahead. We'll go over.
I have a friend actually has a growth on the foot, like on the bottom by the pinky, and the bottom, very difficult spot. And he can't walk. I mean, he started cutting it with a blade, with a razor blade, and it bleeds. And I said, this is no good, but he doesn't know. Is it natural healing? Maybe. What is the growth? It's almost like a tiny bone that grows.
We can't diagnose.
It could be a plantar wart, which is very painful when you get plantar warts. It could be anything. Can you hold his foot up and let me see it? I'm sure you can. I don't know what it is. And sometimes the best thing to do is have someone diagnose what it is and then try to figure out what to do, but plantar wart is probably one of the main things it could be. So here, let me give you a little recommendation for a plantar wart. get some waterproof tape, cover it with waterproof tape. Well, here, let's do this first. Get the inside of a banana peel, the white stuff, and put that over it, and then put waterproof tape over the top of that. This is a double whammy. And don't remove it for a couple of days. And then remove it, and because it's been contained, it should be a little bit softer. And then what you can do is you can start trying to slice it away with the razor blade, as long as it's causing no pain and no big bleeding. If it is a plantar wart, if it's a tumor or something else, well, that's another whole ball game right there. But I'd recommend doing the banana, and well, you can also try a piece of potato against it with the waterproof tape. Again, another double whammy. You're building up moisture, which can soften it. And then the potato itself has enzymes in the potato that can help dissolve things like warts.
How important would it be to get it diagnosed first?
You know, if he says it's too painful to walk on, if it's just because it hurts in that one little place, and I look at how fast is this growing? Has it been growing for a long time? Is it growing fast? I don't know.
It's
That's
like a 3 weeks, every 3 weeks, you know, and it becomes more painful. And I thought, you know, since I've been listening, you know, medical missionary, potato, exactly what you said, the sliced potato wrap around. And
yeah. Because I've had a friend, he had a malignant melanoma on his foot. So it's something we got to be concerned with. He did hydrotherapy on the foot, you know, hot and cold, put it in hot for a long time, a little bit of cold, back to hot. And he did many, many things, and it's given him no problems. We're talking about 10 plus years. Of course, I worked with Dr. Calvin Thrash before he died of malignant melanoma, and he had it for 17 years. Usually it goes very fast. If your lifestyle is right and you're doing the right things, these diseases cannot be as aggressive as they are for people who are just living like, hey, it's my last day, I might as well take my last meal right now.
So in those cases, we knew what it was, but I think it would be very useful to know exactly what the growth is, the cause, and then you know, tackle it from there. But
Right.
you know, we have some options, but these are all general information. We don't really know exactly what's going on. So let me go back to the CPAP question just to respond very briefly, David. If you find a sleep dentist, then you may have a few more options there. It can still be appliance therapy. I you know, personally do airway centric dentistry, where I actually do adult expansion and try to increase the adult airway without surgery. So conservative methods, but you're going to have to search for somebody who can help you with that. So hopefully that helps. It's much more natural than surgery if you want to go that route. Lily is asking, what do you think about liposomal vitamin C? It says it can heal cancer and reverse many conditions. Liposomal vitamin C.
Well, I'm all for vitamin C. Yeah, it's like a shoe store. All sizes, one shoe doesn't fit all. I don't know how to say that right. Anyway, you hear these things all the time. If you take Laetrile, it's going to take care of your problem. Laetrile is good. Vitamin B17. I like this stuff. Vitamin C is good. I take zinc. I take topical magnesium and watch it just go into my body. There are things that we can take, but there's no magic pill. See, here's the problem. We've got this myopic view of health. They say, well, if I just do this one thing over here, it's going to take care of my problem. It's a whole problem. We need to treat every disease holistically. We got to treat it in the mind. We got to treat it in the body. We got to treat it by what we put into the body, what we do with our body. If we do everything we know, and herbs is a part of this whole process. There's a thing called black salve. It can take out tumors, but you're not going to find too much black salve around. So what we need to do is say, don't just look at one thing. Look at the whole picture. in many parts of the world that I go to, you can't sit there and say, well, go to the store and get a bottle of zinc and get 1,000 milligrams of vitamin C. They're going to say, what store? Can't do that. So you got to sit there and say, what do we have that we can eat here that's high in these things that you need? Pumpkin seeds. In Africa, pumpkin seeds everywhere. There you got your zinc. Vitamin C, they got the mangoes, they got the citrus, they got all these wonderful things, potassium in the bananas. Just take care of yourself. What's in your hand? Always ask the question, what do I have right here that I can use? Because one thing I have found, I was in India a few years ago with doing a series of meetings, and there were 4 teams. Each one had a doctor. One of the doctor came late, so I was taking his team. When he finally got there, he came to lunch one day and he says, I will never come on one of these trips again as a doctor. We said, why? He says, I can't do anything. I don't have any medicines. I'm thinking, I'm busy all night, work with my patients because I find out what's here. He can give them their medications, but when he goes home and they run out of medication, what good did he do? We've got to find out what we can do with what God has given us. Don't be conformed to the world. Be transformed in your mind that you might prove, which means test God, what is his good and acceptable and perfect will for us. And what is that? I would that thou prosper and be in health. 3 John 2.
Amen. So like kind of going back to your presentation, Dr. Don, you talked about the Babylonian mindset. I personally feel like even if it's a natural remedy, if we keep depending on natural remedies, but not changing our lifestyle so that for the time being, okay, we're already sick because we didn't have a good lifestyle. Let's get the natural remedies going, experience God's healing power. But I think it's very important from that point on for us to be, you know, what we consider sanctification. So sanctify our bodies and, you know, start to, you know, lose some of the bad habits, replace it with the good habits and change it holistically inside out. And just see your spirituality improve and increase and your relationship with God become deeper and more connected. I feel like that happens to me, although I'm not doing anything super perfectly. I'm just making an effort. But, you know, the more I try and the more I pray, the more I'm on my knees, I can see those changes happening in my life. So, and I know so many of our attendees here are experiencing that too. And I think that's the medical missionary journey. And I think that is probably the goal eventually after the natural remedies. You know, how do we become, you know, how do we holistically change things so that we stop injuring ourselves? Right. So that we don't have to deal with constant natural remedies to remedy a situation.
Well, so going back to the illustration of flying lessons, quit doing the wrong thing. And it's not, it doesn't, he didn't say, oh, if you get into a spin, check that dial and turn the knob. No, just quit doing the wrong thing. It's always get back to the basics. And you remember the third step in what is disease? It is assist nature in restoring right conditions of health. So if we have gotten sick, it's not wrong. This past week from Jethro Kloss's book, Back to Eden, I did the lemon juice and cayenne pepper and water and drank it down. That loosens every mucous membrane in your body. It really helps drain it. And I also gargled with Greek oil of oregano. It's hot as fire, but I gargled with it and it burned me up, but it really took care of my sore throat. It does really great stuff. So oil of oregano and oil of thyme are 2 things I don't want to do without either. Amen. So once we've taken care of the problem and we're back on Main Street, all you got to do is follow God's plan of health.
Amen.
And if we do this, we're not going to get sick. God says, if you do what I say, you will not get these diseases.
Amen. Thank you for that that reminder. And I think that it's 4:36 now. So Mercy, do you want to talk about our class a little bit?
Yeah, we will. Can you just quick answer these questions that wasn't answered? I lost my voice for 2 years. I know there is very not enough information. Probably need a lot of more information than that to ask. I don't know what else. I think it's some nodules that are probably pressing the the vocal cords, and perhaps some tumors there. So I don't know if you have a maybe short.
No, I had a friend who had that.
psychological.
I had a friend with that problem, and she finally went to surgery, and the doctor was able to fix her her throat, and she talked just fine. So I tried all kinds of natural remedies. I couldn't find a solution for that one, so I'm afraid sometimes it's a blessing. Be
Okay.
quick to hear, slow to speak, slow to wrath.
Thank you so much, Dr. Miller, for a wonderful presentation today. I'm pretty sure everybody's so blessed. We've been blessed here in our Lifestyle Center. We're in a 10-day program. So we extremely blessed.
What island are you on?
We are in California, Northern California.
California.
We're in the mountains, California.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I've been in the mountains in the Philippines, so anyway.
Okay. So yeah, we're so grateful, and we hope that you come back again for more natural remedies. Always a blessing to learn more and more. I love that one with the cayenne pepper, that you make the tincture and for the sciatica, because we do that too, but in a different way. But I like the way you mentioned it. So
Wonderful.
Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. And also, we want to just remind everybody that we do have the medical missionary training coming up, the August the 15th. So that's our third medical missionary training that we're doing. So you can start signing up. We already have people signing up. We hope to take no more than 50 people to be able to answer all your questions. So please sign up as soon as you can. Very, we keeping up with science also. Of course, we believe, like Dr. Miller in the Spirit Prophecy, everything that we read about the council, we follow faithfully, because we know that that's the real science. So the Bible and the Spirit Prophecy are the basis of healing. And we like to back up with science too, for the sake of some people that might not believe. But sometimes it's good to do that too. So we just want to encourage everybody to sign up. And so this is just coming up very, very soon. Thank you so much. Any other words, Dr.
Yeah, just to make the connection between today's topic and our medical missionary training, it's a diet protocol that is geared towards, we're making that effort to help people become free of needing to supplement. So this is strictly diet based. So even if you are already an experienced med missionary, it's definitely worth it to look into this program and to learn how a person can just be changed internally, inside out, and be free of a lot of this chronic inflammation that so many people have. So hope to see everybody there. And it's August 15th for 6 Sundays every morning, 6:30 to 8:30. So it's completely out of your way of your daily routine. That's it. Just wanted to mention that. That's exactly what we're trying to do, what Dr. Don has been presenting for us today.
So Dr. Don, would you close with the word of prayer, please?
Be blessed to do it. Father in heaven, we're thankful that you have given us these bodies to preserve for you and for your glory and for the good of mankind. We've made mistakes, Father. Thankful that you blink at the times of our ignorance and you forgive the time of our willfulness. We just pray now that you'd help us in these last days to present our bodies, living sacrifices, acceptable to you, which is our reasonable service. Bless each person who's been with us this afternoon. Be with us as we continue on to these Sabbath hours and into the first day of the week. May we be ready to serve you, we pray in Christ's name for his sake. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you, everybody. Have a good week.